The map of every recorded battle in history. It's missing the dot of me in the bathroom right now. Describe world history in a few words. Knock knock. It's Europe. Who is the bad guy in history who isn't actually a bad guy? A glorious death in battle. Most warriors and kings throughout history. Deadly diarrhea. Newly discovered cave paintings suggest early man was battling a lot of inner demons when you have to conquer Mongolia, but the cat needs a walk first. Are those cat ears? Use over time for the word bruh. Bruh, 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 bruh. Swedish king Adolf Fredrik died in 1777 after eating 17 cinnamon buns. In 1895, there were only 2 cars in the entire state of Ohio. Despite this, they still managed to crash into each other. Screams were invented in 300,000 BC. People in 3001 BC. I'd love to go back in time and blow people's minds with my incredible knowledge. What? Ancient Greek astrologers be like, yes, a goat. A Western tourist who paid to take a photo with samurai armor. 1890, probably the first documented weeb in history. If you ever feel useless, remember that Mongolia has a navy. Fools. The only reason why the pyramids exist in Egypt is because they were too heavy for the British people to steal and put in the British museums. Does this annoy anyone else as much as it annoys me? Real ancient battle versus TV shows ancient battles. Doesn't annoy me because I don't care. Archaeologists have uncovered the first known temple to an important pre-Hispanic deity called the Flayed Lord, who was represented by a skinless corpse. You need to put that thing right the fuck back. Sun Tzu's The Art of War. Make sure you have the high ground. Genius. Thank you. Can you imagine how hot we all would have seemed like 600 years ago? Before, my paintings mean the victory of Rome over the barbarians. Now, oh yeah, a banana with tape. So meaningful. Historical footage of the last T-Rex serving his country in World War I. Yet another cycling skill that has been lost over the years. A woman practicing cutting off a head while riding a bicycle. The more things change, the more they stay the same. People thousands of years from now will think we worshipped Scooby-Doo. Absolutely no one. Not a single soul on Earth. Europeans eating pulverized mummies in the 19th century. Step 1, make yourself an emperor. Step 2, start winning. Step 3, lose once. Step 4, history nerds will turn 14 and then base their personalities on one of these. The Amber Bear Amulet, 3,500 years old. The Forbidden Gummy Bear. The only open-minded president we've ever had. That's one way to say it. Neanderthals may have been morning people, says new study. Pirates in fiction. I'm going to steal all of your money, then eat you alive. No, you are a maniac. Pirates in reality. Regarding the economic crisis we are facing, I have no other choice but to rob you. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I'm not a savage. No problem. I know there's nothing personal there. It's never too late to follow your dreams. Vlad the Impaler didn't even start impaling people until his mid-30s. Listen to the natives and don't eat polar bear liver. Get a horrific vitamin A poisoning. English Arctic explorers. A Germanic man sculpted by a Roman sculptor versus sculpted by a Germanic sculptor. The arts have never been their strong suit. Sun Tzu quotes, which are better to be known when young, to not regret when old. Pythagoras quotes, you should know before you get old. They're the same. Medieval fashion. Nice dress. Thanks, it's slick. Meanwhile in Japan, let me see those gums. I don't get it. Antarctic-centric worldview. Map of the world when the emperor penguins finally live up to their name. Never forget, on November 16th, 1949, a bunch of Belgian students from Ghent took over a fortress and attacked the police with fruit because the city had raised the price of beer. The invention of archery. I really want to stab that guy, but he's way over there. Maybe I'll get some food at that campfire. What's the worst that can happen? 10,000 years later. The emperor in real life versus the emperor on coins. I feel like people do not fully understand how much life changed for our species between 1900s and the 2000s. I struggle to comprehend it. These events are 66 years apart. Tomato Europe versus potato Europe. This is a good map. I totally could have been a doctor in the Middle Ages. The sores are growing worse. I shall smack them with mint. And if this doesn't work, that means God wants him to die. Amen. I tried baking a skull cake, but instead, I ended up with a pharaoh from 1500 BC. Me, weird history facts. Innocent people. 14-year-olds know. Haha, you don't have a girlfriend. No, she is from another school. You do not know her. No. 14-year-olds in the Middle Ages. I was your wife. Dead. This will always be one of my favorite historical fun facts. The Thagomizer is the name for the spikes on a Stegosaurus dinosaur. It didn't have a historical name until the cartoonist Gary Lars did a comic about it, named it, and the scientific community just accepted it and started using it. The saddest book cover series in history. The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire 1. What everyone thinks Vikings look like versus how Vikings actually looked like. Bruh, my history teacher wants me to fail at this point. Worth 80% of your grade. Who's in Paris? I just rewrote history. Seduce me with ridiculous history facts. Pineapples used used to be so expensive that people would rent them for parties as prestige decoration. That's the stuff. Seduce me with obscure knowledge of history. Nintendo and the Ottoman Empire existed during the same time. Staircase, designed by Leonardo da Vinci, 1516. No human in history has ever looked more like an NPC than this guy. History class is really just catching you up to speed on everything you missed before you were born. Previously on, just fucking everything. One of my favorite things ever is the 300-year gap in Irish inventions after whiskey was invented. 14th century, Cade, whiskey. 17th century. Plato means abroad in Greek. There are recorded instances in Aristotle's notes of Plato settling debates by standing up and flexing. He was an Olympic gold medal wrestler. Plato was a Chad. Plato, I don't think that helps your argument. Shut up. History. History if Europe never existed. The history of rock, paper, scissors game. Scissors are invented in 3000 BC. Paper is invented in AD 105. All ties, rock advantage, balanced. What year is it? 50 BC? What does BC stand for? Before Christ. Who is Christ? No fucking clue, mate. The breastplate of a cavalryman, struck by a cannonball while serving Napoleon. You promise not to cry? Yes, 90% of history went unrecorded, and a lot of it is lost forever. I promise. Modern human skull, male, versus hunter-gatherer skull, male. If you ever feel like you've screwed up, just remember that in 1348, the Scots thought it would be a good idea to invade England because the English were weakened by the plague. They subsequently caught the plague themselves, went back to Scotland, and killed half of their own population. Sometimes, I think I'm arrogant, but then I remember that Julius Caesar was kidnapped by Sicilian pirates, and when they demanded a ransom of 620 kilograms of silver, he got mad because he thought he was worth more than that, and made them raise it to 1500 kg. He has also recited his own poetry to them. Dude, this is why you got stabbed by all of your friends. About 40% of Americans believe humans and dinosaurs existed at the same time. Explain this picture then, and don't say it's photoshopped. They didn't have it back then. It's a painting. Atheists be like, go grandpa. What we think people from the 14th century would be mind blown by, versus what they would really be mind blown by if the British landed on the moon first. Gee, France, how did you invent the baguette? Your national bread. Alright, you numbnuts. Here's a bread you can cut by hand. Now hand me over your knives and stop killing each other. What Americans think their ancestors rode to work in the 1900s versus what they actually rode. Elephants were used to guard the examination halls until 1843, when the emperor said it was no longer necessary. Indonesia versus Indonesia. Oscar, a cat that served on 3 warships. 1 German, 2 British, all sank in action. The cat survived each sinking, floating away on a wooden plank to rescue. The cat was known as Unsinkable Sam. Looking at the list of countries that didn't commit war crimes, it's blank. Medieval battles in Hollywood. Real medieval battles. Waiting for the enemy castle to just give up. French call to replace English with Latin is Europe's official language. France doesn't care about Latin. They're trying to undermine English. Thanks, Centaurian obvious. History is so boring. Can't we talk about something else? History. 1. Before the pig. 2. Pig. 3. Military escalation. 4. Resolution. Europe. Americans naming cities. New city name. Europe. Yep, New York. No, you barbarians don't know how to treat a lady. Vikings. We allow women to run businesses, own land, and even file for divorce if they wanted. Guns are the best. No, melee weapons are. Poland, in the 18th century. Hear me out. Ah yes, a Nokia fossil from the Vespasian period. Italians, during the Stone Age. Just a casual reminder that the 17th century Earl of Oxford went into voluntary exile for 7 years because he farted while bowing to the Queen. They don't know I'm about to blast off. Just precisely how bad was 1500s Jerusalem at making maps, you ask? Well, this is a fidget spinner. Like the video if you believe in fidget spinner Earth. How people think ancient philosophers are. Skinny, miserable, can't fight. How they actually are. Plato is a wrestler name, meaning broad chest, jacked as hell, over 6'6", lifted a castle gate, master of archery, always carries a sword. Dude, have you ever wondered why nobody reached the North Pole with a hot balloon? I don't know, I guess they didn't think to do it a century earlier. Well, guess we're gonna starve to death now. Medieval peasants only worked 150 days a year. They had it better. Reality, lives in serfdom, constant repairs, smallpox rampant, wife died in childbirth, life expectancy 50. Just as in fiction, please stop making fun of me. I only wish to be freed from this living nightmare. Just as in reality, I am fed, clothed, well paid. I can insult the king without consequences, and I am in some cases among his most important advisors. I don't know if I should say hi to her, ask for an autograph, or report her to the Louvre. In the late 1800s, critics feared that the telephones would end society. People thought phones would be used to invade privacy and make people lazy and antisocial. Everything in this picture is now in your pocket. This will be in history textbooks in 10 years. Who orders a subway like this? Being really into history history is cooler than being into maths or science. Someone who likes math and science is called a math nerd or a science geek, but someone who likes history is called a history buff because of their strong, sensual arms. We have to be buff to carry the weight of history's sins all the time. The Carew disease. How are you feeling today? Not so good. Have you eaten something rotten? No. Wait, are you guys eating each other? Dead. Lincoln grossed over $275 million in movie theaters, which is ironic since historically Lincoln doesn't do too well in theaters. With my homies from the Senate, apparently they have a surprise for us. When you tried to take a selfie in a Vietnamese forest, 13 faces detected. A Soviet soldier training his backflip tomahawk throw. If someone finally raked Canada's flag. Time traveler, what's going on? We're looking for water because the whole Nile turned to blood. Oh, the 10 plagues have started. The what? The British monarch celebrates 2 birthdays. One on their actual birthday, and then officially in the summer when the weather is nice enough for a parade. When you are about to build a shopping mall, but you are in Rome. I can't believe Caesar is really taking us to Britain. Who knows what kind of loot we'll find? Probably tons of gold and temples ready to be plundered. Do you guys even practice agriculture? Strange looking blokes, ain't they? Hope they stay away from our pile of rocks. Apparently, death by shovel was a thing in medieval times. Turkey's underground city is nearly 3,000 years old, and it came to host 20,000 people. It's a Caesar salad. July 21st, 1969 newspaper. We made it. We're on the moon. I don't want to live through any more historical events. Kids in the future, trying to memorize 2020 events for their final history. Current mood. Babies by Van Gogh. Is nobody going to talk about this painting? I mean, those men are just casually riding their beards. Never mind them. I'm more concerned about the guy kidnapping a woman with his beard. The death of Achilles. Colorized. The entire language of Morse code. Some dude's wife dying. Trade offer. I receive. Nothing. Haha, don't worry about it. You receive. A big wooden horse. Don't do war. World leaders. How will you enforce that? Action heroes in the 80s versus 2021. Yeah, you know there are still buff actors now. What the fuck? Your friends convince your executioner to take the day off. A shoemaker takes his place. This actually happened to someone. Imagine telling a non-basketball fan that this man was the biggest trash-talking psychopath to ever play in the NBA. Spain, we have successfully protected our land from the thieving British. What actually happened? Hey, you're on the wrong beach. Oh, my bad. Bro, we gotta check out Plymouth's Rock. The Pilgrims landed there, bro. It's a piece of history. It's gonna be so cool. Trust me, bro. Sir, they didn't include this meme as the scene in your movie. Modern history, medieval history, ancient history. George was a good president for 8 years. Then George said, I'm tired. I want to go home. Accepting that the opposing side has a stronger navy and strictly fighting battles on land. Attempting to ally the second most powerful navy at the time and getting all those side things. First ever recorded snowball fight, 1897. It's really cool to be alive in the USA at this point in history because it's like the collapse of the Roman Empire, but with Wi-Fi. The mysterious chicken church is located in the middle of the Indonesian jungle. The abandoned building itself is quite bizarre, but even more bizarre is the fact that there are 12 underground chambers. The world is filled with such wonderful things. Wild wolves from 40,000 years ago. Dogs being dressed up like tacos. We had to kill the Vikings because they bathed and brushed their hair, and our wives couldn't resist such sophistication. Is a hell of a take by medieval English chroniclers. A display of medieval weaponry includes the shield, the battle axe, and the finger of, oh no you didn't. I just learned that Scotland names the entire snowplow fleet, and the names are incredible. I think my favorites are Ready Spready Go and Ice Destroyer. Gangster Granny Gritter. Babe, please, would you turn on Google Maps? No, instincts will guide me. Getting lost in the 1st century. Babe, please, would you ask for directions, please? No, all roads lead to Rome. John M. Browning in 1912 making a heavy machine gun that's used by the US Army for the next 100 years because no one came up with something better. Greatest troll in lockdown history. Elon Musk should buy the History Channel and make it about history. Humans for 100,000 years just focus on hunting and gathering, living in small tribal communities. Humans, after noticing that plants grow from where the seeds are thrown, what, no Jurassic Parker? T-Rex gets a Christmas jumper at Natural History Museum in London. Mount Shasta with 0 snow. The first time in modern history. I would call that handwriting on the wall. On this date in Philly's history, 1883, the first mascot is introduced, the Dancing Dutchman and his Rhett Chauncey. I'm at the Natural History Museum and I'm obsessed with this thing. How often do you think about the Roman Empire? Once every week, I guess? More like every night. History documentary starter pack with the latest technology, intense music, low budget reenactments, must use the word uncover, scanning random stuff, ancient Romans. Look what I made. It's say no more, it's obvious, we don't even have to write it down. Archaeologists today. What did they use it for? In 1760 1866, English sailors on the frigate HMS Dolphin learned that native women on islands would trade the deed for iron, so they began pulling nails out of the ship so extensively that it threatened the ship's physical integrity. Reading through world history, trying to find an example of the good old days. Isn't it weird that we live longer than boys? Yeah, it's really weird. What strategy are you going to use to defeat Hannibal? Varro. Strategy? I have 77,000 Roman soldiers and the Jupiter's favor on my side. I don't need a strategy. Teacher, illustrate a moment in history. Me. Whoever is humming the Jaws theme is going to get slapped. The first drug deal recorded in history. When you bake a fantastic cake but have nowhere to post it because the internet doesn't exist yet. My history teacher. Me. My knowledge about the Soviet Union and World War II. Levels of pain. Slap. Childbirth. Kicked in the nuts. Sailing 33,000 kilometers. Just to lose. Not a cell phone in sight. Just people living in the moment. In 1714, a Norwegian captain and an English captain had a 14-hour-long ship fight. Afterwards, both ships were severely damaged, and the Norwegian captain was running out of ammo. He sent an envoy to the English ship, asking if they could borrow some of their ammo. They said no. The best gorilla joke of 1897. Did you hear about the gorilla who escaped from the zoo? No, I did not. That is because I'm a quiet gorilla. The people in 1897 were mentally in 2030. Edgar Allan Poe living most of his life in poverty. Edgar Allan Poe after publishing The Raven. Nevermore. Medieval wine windows are reopening, reviving Italian plague tradition. Life finds a way. All of Russian literature be like, listen kid, bad things happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. How it feels to read an ancient manuscript and understand a word. This taxidermy was found inside a late 19th century French mansion, which has been sealed up for more than 1,000 years. Good to know, people were just as weird before the internet. Napoleon III in fiction. Lol, I'm the worst version of Napoleon I. Napoleon III in reality. I highly industrialized my country, made numerous reforms, integrated Savoy and Nice in France, intervened in the Crimean War, and made Paris the city we know today. Today I learned, in the Middle Ages, some kings had clothes made from salamander fur, which were completely fireproof and bright white. The name likely comes from the common belief that salamanders were born from fire. The clothes were actually made out of asbestos. Bend thine ear and hearken. If thou, thy king, has been exposed to salamander fur, thou mightest be entitled to monies in recompense. Send thy fleetest Fuck am I reading? Romans and their dogs. Welcome to your new family. 15 years later, I am in tears while carrying you to your last resting place. The 40 Elephants, a terrifying, violent, all-female gang from the Elephant and Castle who petrified London. They wore special hand-tailored clothes, sewn with hidden pockets. And as a group, they would pour into the stores and plunder thousands in a matter of minutes. Is this why women aren't allowed to have pockets anymore? We have no idea how they made Greek fire. Must be a myth. Do you know how to make Greek fire? Of course, I have the recipe on my fridge. One of the biggest downgrades in UK history. True, but it's because people would piss at the bottom of the red ones and it would stink and people would sleep in there. I mean, I don't really have, yeah, I guess, sleeping, good and bad. If homeless people need to use it, I don't really have a problem. But what if you need to call someone and someone's just sleeping in there and you're lost?